Hi everyone, it is just about that time of year where we are about at the halfway point of album releases, and I want to take a moment to look back on some of my personal favorite releases from this year. I have a list of albums that I've given positive scores to. All of the reviews will be linked in the description box down below for more information on these albums. You can go check them out, and I hope you listen to them as well, or at least listen to a few of the songs, and if you don't like it, then say you gave it a try. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to be sorting this list out through month of releases. So starting off with January releases, we have the really great posthumous record from Mac Miller titled Circles. Really great collection of tracks from the late Mac Miller. I find the best qualities of him are on this album. Even if there are some moments on the record that don't translate with me all that much, this is still a very poignant and well-groomed collection of tracks from, again, the late rapper. Next, we are going to move on to the Destroyer album, Have We Met? Dan Behar basically kind of goes back to the sounds that he's known for, at least the sounds era, like Kaput era. It's more upfront, it's more personal. The vocals are a lot louder and the instrumentation is slightly different. I find this record to be just so, I guess, gratifying. I find the performances on here to be well done. I like how all the songs kind of flow into one another in a very subtle but noticeable way. And again, the instrumentation is really well done. Yeah, just an overall well-groomed album as well. Next, we have a personal favorite of mine, Dan Deacon, Mystic Familiar. Love this record. Love this record. The overall sound of this album is just immaculate. The way the electronics and synthesizers are layered on every track is godly. I don't mean to say this to sound mean or rude or condescending or callous, but I feel like this album in some way is like a fluke because he wasn't ever leading up to this point. I feel like this album just kind of happened. I just feel like this record was just accidental. Now, I want him to prove me wrong, right? I want to be proven wrong in this scenario. This record is just kind of a different turn to a more ambitious approach that Dan Deacon would normally do, but I don't know, he just conjured something that was just well done, immaculate, and just fantastic. Anyway, despite those, fantastic record. Please check this out. Next, we have an album that I reviewed a little later than January. I reviewed it just the other day. It is Pet Shimmers with Face Down in Meta. This album is a great collection of very dense, layered, indie-tronica, neo-psychedelic, shoegaze, noise pop. It's a lot. It's very well textured. It's a lot going on in this album. It's a cavalcade of influences and musical styles and genres, but it all works. It's a record that I find beautiful, happy, smile-inducing, youthful, but also being very sobering and sad at some points. Next, we have one of my favorite electronic releases of this year, Against All Logic, 2017 through 2019. I think Nicholas Jar really outdid himself on this project. Really, to follow up his already well-received debut under this name with a better album is just something that I'm like, wow, this ain't just a fluke. And I do hope he continues to experiment, because this is definitely something that I have high hopes for in the future, unless these are the only two albums in the Against All Logic discography that he's willing to do. But still, I find these records to be interesting and hold a weird juxtaposition between one another. Like, it's deep, funky house grooves or outsider tech house IDM kind of stuff. Which one do you prefer? Gotta shout out Spanish Love Song's Brave Faces Everyone, one of the better pop punk and emo releases of the year. There's so much catharsis and angst and just turmoil on this album, not only in the songwriting, but in the instrumentation as well. It is explosive, it is lively. What Spanish Love Songs have done is really honed down that formula and that sound to a mastery of some sorts. And really, they just conjured an album that is well made, well thought out, well performed. Definitely one of the better emo releases this year. Next, we have one of the better stoner rock releases of this year, Lowrider with Refractions. Meditative, slow, hypnotic instrumentation that is condensed but elongated. The usual form for Lowrider. I feel like this record actually is more of them coming into their own, because their debut album was marred with people just kind of comparing them to Caius, which is a very obvious and truthful comparison, but still I feel like they definitely kind of figured out their sound on this album. Even though, you know, stoner rock, it's kind of hard to develop your sound. It's possible, but still I think what Lowrider have done on this record is nothing shy of impressive. Moving into the month of March, we have one of the most gorgeous albums I've heard this year. Lives in its own little world. I'm talking about Honey Harper with Starmaker. From the songwriting to the instrumentation to the performances, oh man, this album is just so rich with vibrant instrumentation, gorgeous placements and arrangements of these songs. And again, the way this album exists, it lives in its own world, it exists in its own mind. And Honey Harper, as a songwriter and a vocalist, definitely has his own style and sound. I'm very excited to see where he can go from this point, because it is a strong debut. Like, man, can he top this? I hope he can. I really do. Next, we have one of the better rap related releases this year with Ferreira, Purple Moonlight Pages. Great jazz rap album this year. A fantastic jazz rap album this year. I mean, honestly, this album has just kind of grown on me because it's just well performed, simplistic in the right way, and Rory's songwriting on this record, the introspection and just the topics of outside living and existing, just really appeal to me in such a way. It's a very philosophical album. It's one that makes you think, and I like that. It's more of a conversation this album is having with me. Me and Rory are talking to each other, and you know, I do like talking, but yeah, whatever. Next, we have a really, really underrated project this year from Letrux with Prantos. Really great collection of some of the better sounds in alternative rock and synth pop and new wave, and just these sounds kind of come together on an album that sounds like it's a little all over the place, but all of these songs are very much connected to themselves. They definitely have a similar personality with one another, and vocally on this record, Letrux does such an amazing job with her vocals, and the songwriting's good, the instrumentation is good. Ugh, I just cannot with this record. It's so damn good. It is so damn good, and I want people to listen to this more because it is underappreciated, underrated, and highly under the radar. Just under the radar for most people. Please check this out. Another great Spanish-related release, more from Spain this time. It is Triángulo de Amor Bizarro with their self-titled album. One of the more interesting indie rock albums. Really unique and creative approach to the sound. It's a little more cacophonous, it's more cavernous, it's claustrophobic in some way, but it still has some very beautiful and anthemic moments. I just love the creativity shown on this album and how the band works together so harmoniously. It just shows that indie rock can be exciting, can be interesting, and can be invigorating, despite the genre being well past its prime. Or maybe there's a second wave of indie rock, or maybe there's a third wave, or maybe I'm not that well versed in this genre, but still, great album. Please check this out. Getting into April releases, we have another underrated project. Come on, guys, this is one of his best projects yet. Thundercat. It is what it is. Love this record. Love this album, man. Come on. If we are purely talking about how well these songs come together, how well Thundercat's personality comes together on this record, this really is like the crown jewel in his discography. It's sensual, it's playful, it's smooth, it's fun, it's free form, it's really nice, but it's also very playful and bouncy at some points too. And what I really appreciate about this album is how well it balances that fun angle of Thundercat with that soothing and relaxed vibe that he can also bring on an album. And his bass playing is also really good on this album too, like most of his albums. Yeah, I don't know why you guys hate this album. You guys hate Thundercat. You hate him. I don't know why. He didn't do anything to you. I digress. Still, moving up from here, we have Pokey, LaFarge with Rock Bottom Rhapsody. This one really kind of surprised me. This record takes the sound of like the 50s and the 60s and old-time Americana and rhythm and blues music, gives it to a modern audience. And it does it in such a way where it's not feeling old or stale. It's more or less revamping the sound, again, for a modern audience with a better and more clearer recording style as well. There are some moments where it feels a little old-timey, but very much so this record still has a very modern sound to it. Check this out if you're curious. It is a really interesting project, one that I think people are just sleeping on too much. And now that many people aren't sleeping on, however, is the new Laura Marling album, Song for Our Daughter. The instrumentation of this record, it is so quaint, quiet, lush, and just well performed. It is hushed, is another way I can describe this record. It is a very hushed project. It's not Laura Marling overindulging in the sounds of chamber folk. It's really her kind of doing the simplest of formulas, but still it works to her benefit. The songwriting on this record is top notch, one of her best albums in the songwriting department. Instrumentally, again, it's not in your face, it's not really over the top, it's very quaint, very hushed, but still conveys a lot of emotion and appeal to me personally. It's a very calm record. It's very calm. Patience is another way I can describe this record. Very patient. Next, gotta give it to Fiona Apple. Fetch the Bolt Cutters. Love this record. Amazing record. Love this. You know how much I love this album. Can't say enough nice things about this record. I love the songwriting, the instrumentation. More percussive, raw than her previous albums, but still, it hits. It's done very well. It is done so well. Yeah, love this record. And, you know, I understand why some people might not love it as much as I do, but I just find so much quality about this record. It is just a great album from front to back. Getting into the month of May, we gotta give it to Ka with Descendants of Cain. Great, quiet rap album, an MC unlike any of his contemporaries, really, if he has any. He really isn't turning over a new leaf on this album, but I still find his songwriting and his lyricism to be just so engaging and to be very dense and layered and just well thought out. This is definitely one of those weird, esoteric, idiosyncratic records that some people might just not really get or enjoy as much as I do, but I just find so much to really respect about this album. Dense, textured, well done. I can go on and on and on, but let's move on to Car Seat Headrest with Making a Door Less Open. I don't know how to explain this other than please watch my review. I really did a lot of explaining there. I don't really know how to make the case for this record, being that it is so left field for the band, but I find that left field appealness to be so appealing to me. Like, I just love that. I just have such a weird infatuation with this project, and I still come back to this album more often than not. Even compared to some of the other albums that I've rated highly this year, this is still one of those albums that I'm just weirdly drawn to. We'll find out at the year-end list, so stay tuned. Next, it's one of the best pop records of this year. One of the best pop records of this year, one of the best pop albums this year has to offer. It is Charli XCX with How I'm Feeling Now. I love the idea in this album of being isolated and going through this quarantine process, and I think it represents the mindset of quarantine with all of us very well, with its experimental and bombastic production that is so fun. God, it's just so damn good. Love the songwriting on this record. Could have been a little bit better in my opinion, but man, the songs on here, they hit, they snap, they pop, they're bombastic, they're infectious. Yeah, you know, this record is just so good. It's so good. Another really great album this year is Jeff Rosenstock with No Dream. It really comes down to what I'm feeling on a given day, whether or not I like this album more over his more fan-acclaimed album, Worry. I just find this record to be more drawn out, more ambitious, and just well curated for the genre of power pop and pop punk. I do like Worry, I very much like Worry, but I would honestly say that these two albums are really neck and neck. Honestly, I don't know how else to describe it. Great album right there, another fantastic record, a fantastic album. Again, underrated, but that's the usual on this channel. It is Rafael, Anton, Irisarri with Peripeteia. Amazing, textured, frigid set of ambient and drone tracks on this record. These songs all play together in a very smart and creative way, very subtly too. It's a very doomy, gloomy, and dreadful tone, but it's one that also is strangely calming to my ears, personally. Enjoy the record. Love it, love it, love it. And last but not least, gotta give a shout out to Backxwash for God Has Nothing to Do with This, leave him out of it. A really condensed version of some of the best qualities of horrorcore. The sampling is on point. The songs on here could have been drawn out a little bit longer, but there are songs on here that are just the right length, just enough meat on the bones for me to be appetized and fulfilled. And the lyrical topics on this record are super varied, from trans identity to a black identity to just politics and the life around you. Just a great record from Backxwash. I'm incredibly proud of what she's done. Great album right here, and again, just shows that music from not so well-known artists that are making their way on the internet, putting out albums and making it well done, well written, well performed. Just overall great. Can't get enough of all these albums. Please check them out. Again, links to my reviews in the description. Now, I am curious to know, what are some of your favorite albums thus far this year? Do any of my picks align with some of your picks? Let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like, comment, share, do whatever you want. Let me know how I can improve future videos down below. Remember, this is only my opinion, because music is subjective.